Freedom and democracy are the essential attributes of our movement. Labor organizations lacking these attributes, like Hitler's Labor Front, Franco's syndicates, and Moscow's captive unions, are unions in name only. Authoritarian control, whether from within the labor movement or imposed from without by government, is a tradition and the principles which should always guide and govern our movement. That was from the AFL-CIO Codes of Ethical Practices Code 6, which is, I believe is entitled Democratic Process. Greetings, my fellow freedom-loving sovereign thinkers. Thank you for tuning in to LL3 Podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the wild and wonderful Mountain State, and today's date is Friday, July 9th, 2021. The reason why I read this quote, I just been hearing their fear and anxiety from multiple institutions, labor movements, etc. I know I did a podcast a while back pertaining to the firefighters in Pembroke Pines. Many of the firefighters members union said no on doing mandatory COVID-19 vaccination because of their very highly skeptic. You got others out there who are just totally obtuse and live in fear and want to be controlled by an outside entity trying to tell you and your fellow brothers and sisters what you got to do for your own good. This is one of the most disturbing trends, and people haven't learned a damn thing what happened on September 11th, politically speaking. It's one big turnoff, but I am not surprised. You have to expect this, folks. The spiritual warfare has enhanced. Yes, my circle has gotten tighter. That's okay. I don't wish any of those that don't want to talk to me any ill will. But very disappointing. Because many of them were paying attention, then boom, when COVID hit, they just live out of fear. Yes, many good people I know have passed due to COVID. A good amount of them didn't really that healthy. Everyone's affected differently. 99% plus recovery. But they still want you to take the shot to go to work. There's a person I know who claimed to be Mr. Vaccination, had the shot 4 weeks later. I found out today he got COVID-19. This is an example of stripping your rights as honorable people. Doesn't matter where you're at. There's even talks now, Italy may be investigating the Pfizer vaccine. There's even, I've seen this one video pertaining to an interview with one of the doctors that said the Spanish scientists are saying the Pfizer vaccine may have a poison toxin called graphene dioxide. Graphenite dioxide. Or graphene. I think it's graphene. Yes, if you hear me swaying back and forth, I'm on my rocking chair. This one was a lot more sturdier. But as I continue, all these extremist views and people getting caught in a hook, line, and sinker. Reminds me studying history of Hitler Youth, the Color Revolution, the Khmer Rouge, Children of the Khmer Rouge by Pol Pot. People, great amount of them, aren't waking up. Hear the same old song and dance. They rather have the government, trust by the government that is not FDA approved, is under the emergency, under authority. It wants people to take the shots to work in their facilities. I could say accidents waiting to happen. And it will. It damn's gonna happen. It's one big complete turnoff, and I don't like that at all, folks. You gotta study, learn from the past, because it's today's greatest teacher, not dwell in it. COVID-19 became a 24/7 excuse, just like September 11th. Give up your freedom for security. Many of them want to be numbers, not beautiful, enlightening, like-minded individuals. Who cares about natural rights? I'll take the shot to make money, to make a living, to pay rent, to get the booze, the drugs, the hookers, the blow. And I digress. Yeah, I hear the AC in the background. But it just baffles me. Got all that information right at your fingertips, and people still want to hear the bobbleheads or what their so-called masters tell them. And that's not good at all. It's not just happening within the United States, but around the world. Technocracy at its finest. And it's very disappointing as people I adore and care for are in that same bandwagon. So people like that should be wearing cowbells around their necks and say, yes, I represent walking antimatter. Does that turn you on? Does it make me more masculine, heroic, ladylike? I don't know about you folks. I already got my vaccine, which is MNAB, my natural antibodies. What should I sacrifice my temple so I can get good money? Doesn't work like that. It will burn you in the end when you least expect it, Lord forbid. Yes, just like I said, it's just when you get older, you want to be wiser, not the other way around. Well, sometimes with that particular nature, they're doing you a favor. Got to move on. Be free. Exercise your natural born rights to the best of your ability and share that information with all you care for. Even your own communities, neighborhoods, even your enemies. Yeah, we all have them. But it doesn't mean shun them when their rights are violated because yours could be next. I want to be narrating an article from the Strategic Culture Foundation. And this one, I can say you can relate to it. It's just an example of what's going on. Not just with labor organizations, but everywhere else. This one's entitled A Country That Has Lost Its Way. U.S. government corporations combine to strip citizens their rights. This is by Phil Giraldi, from the Executive Director of the Council for the National Interest. As it reads here, Biden administration is calling on Americans to spy on friends, neighbors, and family, and reporting any extremist views to the authorities. So, if you haven't been vaccinated by the synthetic poisonous serums, you could be considered extremists, right? The American people have increasingly become aware that government surveillance and corporate censorship have combined to keep people ignorant and controlled. What is taking place has generated some dark humor. A friend of mine, and also a former CIA officer, wrote to me recently, said, in tongue-in-cheek, that he retains a lot of respect for the agency because it's the only major government national security entity that does not read our mail and emails. Those jobs are the responsibility of the NSA and FBI. I responded that I would imagine that CIA does, in fact, read quite a lot of mail where it operates overseas, but it is probably done the old-fashioned way by recruiting an underpaid mail clerk as an agent. The whole issue of the government spying illegally on its own citizens has again made the news with the claims by conservative commentator Tucker Carlson that NSA has been spying on him. Presumably because he has connections that the government regards either as subversive or in the new reckoning as extremists who are potential domestic terrorists. Given the reasonable assumption that anyone who voted for Donald Trump might well fall under those categories, that means that something like half the U.S. population could be under suspicion. Mass electronic surveillance of literally trillions of phone calls and messages worldwide without a warrant in violation of Fourth Amendment restrictions on searches without probable cause or a proper warrant issued by a judge has been the regular NSA authorized procedure at least since 9/11, and there is no reason to assume that it is no longer the practice. It basically is initiated by the agency involved, normally NSA or FBI, going to the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, FISA. court or to some other appropriate judge to get a warrant or an individual where there is some probable cause. Probable cause can consist of someone searching the web for suspicious stuff. The court then it gives its approval, which it does in the case of the FISA 99% of the time, when that individual is then surveilled. The names of his or her contacts are also added to the investigation. And it goes on from there, expanding and growing until it includes thousands of phone numbers and email addresses, individuals who are overwhelmingly innocent of any wrongdoing. So it is safe to assume that many of us are right at this moment eligible for being monitored electronically by the federal government. If one combines with the Biden administration's June 1st announcement on a war on domestic terrorism, which it clearly considers to be a function of white supremacists. It is easy to see where all that is going. Biden pulled no punches, describing the threat from white supremacy as the most lethal threat to the homeland today. So that would mean that the government is doing it all in its power to stamp it out, whatever it takes and whatever that means. Can we say the word projection? Yes. White privilege Biden is very good at that. Listening to his masters. Yes, master, I'll read the illiterate juvenile teleprompter. Surveilling ordinary citizens for what they might be thinking, which is what this comes down to. Would be a George Orwellian 1984 tale for our times, updated from when Winston Smith was doing mandatory daily exercises in front of his television set. He slacked off a bit, and the TV instantly admonished him. Then he wondered whether it was possible that he and all the other residents of Airstrip 1, once called Britain, are surveilled at all the time. He concluded that they were. So if your television set suddenly speaks to you in the next few months, it might not be Alexa. The other development that has surfaced in the past couple of weeks is the increased corporate cooperation with what the government is saying and doing. Mainstream media has certainly done its share of obfuscation, including the current near total suppression of the story that a key witness who provided false testimony against journalist Julian Assange languishing in the British prison has turned out to be a pedophile, diagnosed sociopath, and a serial liar. But the major player is invariably social media, which has enormous power in the United States and also elsewhere to shape opinions and propagate false information that serves the government agenda. The media has banned numerous groups, individuals, and links to sites from its pages, a barrier to free speech and freedom of expression, and it has, for example, enthusiastically cooperated fully with the essentially fraudulent government claims of Russian interference in the two most recent elections. It is censoring or denigrating material that is at variance, I got a little tongue-tied there, with official policies, including, for example, Facebook pop-up that appear whether there's an article that contests the approved version of the response to the COVID virus. Back in June, the Biden administration said it would also be working with some of the large high technology and social media companies to increase information sharing to assist in combating radicalization. Biden announced that his Justice Department will create ways for Americans to report radicalized friends and family to the government. One senior official puts it this way: we will work to improve public awareness of federal resources to address concerning or threatening behavior before violence occurs. If you see something, say something. Can we say thought crimes? You're a thought criminal? This involves creating context in which those who are family members or friends or co-workers know that there are pathways and avenues to raise concerns and seek help for those who they have perceived to be radicalizing and potentially radicalizing towards violence. In other words, in plain English, the Biden administration is calling on Americans to spy on friends, neighbors, and family and reporting any extremist views to the authorities. Well, Facebook is now fully on board with more of the same, engaged in the hot war against the white supremacist, extremist, domestic terrorist. It has blocked or shut down many former contributors and also begun posting at least 2 versions of warnings to users. One targets individuals who might have personally been visiting an extremist site, while the other encourages users to snitch on friends or family who might be enticed by such material. The personalized pop-up reads as follows. Name of a recipient. Many have been exposed to harmful extremist content recently. Violent groups try to manipulate your anger and disappointment. You can take action now and protect yourself and others. Get support from experts. Spot the signs. Understand the dangers of extremism and hear from people who escape violent groups. The Snitch on Friends versions reads, are you concerned that someone you know is becoming an extremist? We care about preventing extremism on Facebook. Others in your situation have received confidential support. How you can help. Hear stories and get advice from people who escape violent extremist groups. Get support. To be sure, one has to ask how Facebook knows that one has visited an extremist site since they have blocked such material. Are they somehow hacking into personal accounts of their own users? The situation is dire, no doubt about it, but has provoked a backlash, including this post. Become the extremist Facebook warned you about. One also has to wonder how Facebook would deal with individuals who complain about some other groups with a demonstrated history of promoting violence, including Black Lives Matter, that are not white supremacist related. It will almost certainly do nothing, just like the federal government's demonstrated racially sensitive, supine response to a year of riot, burning, looting, and homicide. In truth, Americans are standing at the edge of a precipice with just one more crisis possibly coming that will tip everyone over the edge, so we wind up with the totalitarian government which works hard to keep everyone safe by doing the opposite. We are almost there, and if you doubt it, just take a look at Facebook. I can't argue with that at all. It's just an example, folks. It's happening everywhere, multiple avenues. A lot of folks out there are getting manipulated, get caught, hook, line, and sinker. Remember that movie, The Time Machine, the original one? I think it came out in the 1950s or early 60s, when the Morlocks had their air raid sirens on, then the humans from above, they just hear that sound and become hypnotized, and they go into the building, they shut it, and they become part of the slaughterhouse. We're seeing it right in front of our eyes, folks. Doesn't matter what you look like, where you from. It's happening everywhere. A prison planet. International order. One world order, new world order, whatever you want to call it. The order. Even folks I have my disagreements with talked about that. And it's a fact. Even Dr. William Pierce, the National Alliance. I wasn't agree with him in a lot of areas, but doesn't mean everything he said was wrong. Because always got to look at the bigger picture. I know many of you out there are doing it. Of course, others are still doubtful Thomases. It's like this, folks. Carry on. If they don't want to hear it, you know what to do. Never get angry, but be inspired. Because in the long run, it's going to be a rough road. But all of you folks will survive this. We'll have spiritual, true peace and spiritual prosperity. We try to take this over by one individual at a time. And that will be it. I thank everyone for listening. Plus, feel free to download and share us throughout your social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, or something you want to check out, whatever you do, please send your correspondence to the Quorum. Furthermore, I'll leave the footnote of this article on my speaker page. If you want to contact me, please go to LokiLuck number 03 at protonmail.com. donations, paypal.me or cash.app/look3. Support strategic culture. And, of course, check out the Council for the National Interest. Always love their work. Love Philip's work. He is awesome. All right, and I do mean that. Go out there, support true journalism, observe responsibly. Once again, thank you for your time. Please always remember that the demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Till next time, take care of yourselves. Keep on spreading the love. And may your guardian spirits be with you.